Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Career Happy Hour. We will get started here in just a few minutes. We're going to give people time to come on and jump in and drop in your name, where are you tuning in from, and what are you sipping on. We're going to have a little bit of royalty-free music while we wait for some folks to come on and jump in. So we'll be starting here in just a little bit. Hey, Chemical, thanks for joining in. Can you hear the music? Drop in a comment and let me know if you can hear the music coming through the speakers. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Career Happy Hour. I was testing out some music there, so hopefully you were able to hear it, because you know I love me some music. Please make sure that as you come on in that you drop in your name. I saw Nigeria over there. Hey, girl, hey. So thankful for you all joining us for another episode of Career Happy Hour. Thanks, Nye. You can hear the music. Great. Okay, I might try to test that out a little bit more. So for those of you who are new to this community, we are a movement of ambitious, high frequency, high vibrations, career professionals and entrepreneurs. We are around here normalizing earning six figures. And remember, six figures does not stop at $100,000. Oh, no. Six figures goes all the way up to one digit shy of $1 million. So that's 999,999. And that's what we are around here, building a community, pouring into you, giving you inspiration, giving you information, giving you nuggets to be able to help you to normalize earning six figures, because that's what we're about around here. So I am Lashina Recruitalina, your six-figure career brand coach. I am over here helping you to attract and recruit the opportunities that you want and you need, not only in your 9-to-5, but also for entrepreneurs. Or if you're a little bit of a hybrid of both, you have your 9-to-5, but you also have your side business, your side hustle. So we're here to make sure that we are making sure that you not only own your oomph, but you rock your oomph. That's right. Your oomph, your personal brand, that is what we are here, and I am here to help you. We have Eddie that's joining us. Hey, Lashina, joining for the first time. So excited to watch you do your thing and support. Thank you, Eddie. So appreciate you. We have an amazing guest co-host tonight. But before I get into introducing him, let me just tell you all, thank you. This week I've been celebrating my birthday, and I have so appreciated seeing all of the messages, all of the hearts, all of the birthday wishes. It has been such an amazing birthday, and I love birthdays. I mean, some people don't like birthdays because they know they're getting older, but I don't think of it as getting older. I think of it as getting better. Like you get finer with. There's, I always mess up sayings, but you know what I'm talking about. Like you are getting better by you continuing to grow yourself, develop yourself. And it's also celebration of life. To me, that's what birthdays are about, is celebrating life, because at any moment we could, not be here anymore. So let's make sure that we're maximizing our life to the fullest. And a lot of that is by pouring into other people. And that's what we have here at Career Happy Hour, bringing on guest co-hosts every week to share with you just some of the amazing career stories that individuals have had, the ups, the downs, the zigs, the zags. So I am going to go ahead and introduce my guest co-host for tonight. And I have a little bit of a bio, so hang on with me because it is well worth it. So our guest co-host for tonight is Adrian Smalls. Adrian is a business development strategist with 15 plus years of experience driving multi-million dollar growth. He offers strategic solutions to his clients through extensive consultation. Adrian takes a total approach to assisting his clients by not focusing on just a transaction, but strategic planning. He says, I always want my clients to know what they are doing and why they are doing it. Adrian has dedicated his life to the fundamental principles of hard work and discipline. Adrian's passion for making every relationship a win-win situation has catapulted him to the top of his field. His extensive and proven understanding of business growth and development provides for an excellent platform to excel as a partner. Is that not an amazing bio? That's what I'm talking about. So put your virtual hands together and welcome my friend, my business confidant, and an all around superstar, Adrian Smalls.
Oh, wow. Awesome, 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 awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate the introduction. I'm so excited to share the platform with you. I'm so proud of all the things that you're accomplishing and that you're going to accomplish. You've had this tenacity to grow and to help people, and it's embedded in you, and it's just going to continue to flourish. So I look forward to seeing it, and hopefully I can keep peeking in on the journey as you continue to go upward.
Wow, Adrian, I so appreciate you saying that because you have been one of those things. We have Kenidra that's tuning in. Good evening from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for joining us. LaShawn is giving you some virtual hand claps.
Yeah.
Adrian, you have been one of those individuals that there's some people that you meet in your this journey of life that I call it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just this instant just connection, this synergy.
Mm-hmm.
And you have been that. Now, I will tell you that you are a hard ass. That's for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
So when we first met, you were like, this Lashina chick, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know. I don't know about her. The verdict was out.
Yeah.
You remember that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, and
That
it's always like, you're just, when you see it and you hear a lot, you're just trying to study to see, like, okay, is it authentic or not? And once it checked that box, I was good. I just had to make sure first, right? I had to just make sure. But once I checked the box, I was good. I was good.
but you definitely had to you definitely have to prove yourself with Adrian. You got to make sure you good people before he decides to open it up. Be like,
Yeah,
okay, all
yeah,
right,
absolutely.
this ticked off. So Adrian, I know I read that amazing bio about
Hmm.
you, but break it down. We're about making things real simple around here at Career Happy Hour. Break it down. What does that mean? What do you do for people and what you in that all of that I just read?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's important. And I think out of all the things that you read, it's important to not know what you're doing, but like why you're doing it. And that's so many times like people are just told, like, hey, do this, do that, make this move, make that move, but they don't really understand how it plays, just like career opportunity. You have to be strategic about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So the biggest thing for me is to figure out where you're trying to go and then reverse engineer that and really look at the small details on a day to day that gets people to ultimately where they want to be. And I think that's the thing. If you just sum that up, it's just really paying attention to people and knowing what it is and what you need to do to drive them or help them get to where they're trying to go. Because it doesn't matter, even with goals and forecasting, we go back to where we used to work. It's like, if you miss your goal from, or your forecasting goal from plus or minus 3%, that means you don't understand your business, and it's the truth, right? So you understand your business by doing the micro things, looking at and studying what is it going to take to move the needle. Because like the old saying goes, like you eat an elephant one bite at a time. You don't just sit there and just say, okay, I want to go from and I know the term people always use 0 to 100. There's really kind of no such thing as 0 to 100, right? So you've got to literally learn to break things down and then make sure that you're getting measured progress in a measurable amount of time. You know what I mean? And then from there you can compound and build. So that's essentially what you're saying, and what I'm doing is looking at the micro to get to the macro.
I love it. I love it. Now I know we at Career Happy Hour we have our drinks on hand,
Yeah,
either your mocktails or your cocktails.
yeah.
So please share with us, what do you have in your cup tonight, friend?
There you go. This is the good old Uncle Nearest, and I like Uncle Nearest. I thought about McAllen, I thought about some other things, but Uncle Nearest is something that it has a meaning behind it, and so I support anything that has some substance to it, and so Uncle Nearest is what I'm choosing today.
Awesome. Now I know I had not heard of this before, so I would love for you to give a little bit of a history of what is Uncle Nearest. Like,
So
I mean, maybe has anyone in the audience, have they heard of Uncle Nearest? Because we're going to share with you what it's about, but I've not
let's
heard of
see.
it.
Let's see if anyone is anyone commenting. Let's see. Uncle
Oh, let's
Nearest.
see. Oh, Eddie said that he's sipping on. Is it good? Went up a tick for me, a Scotch guy.
Uh-huh. Okay. It is good. It is good. So just to give you
Oh,
a
and
little.
Nigeria says she hasn't heard of it.
Oh wow.
Oh, I'm trying
Yeah,
to get.
I'm gonna definitely give you a little bit of backstory. But Jack Daniels, the famous, whiskey maker, there was an
Tell
old
us.
tale.
We're all about expanding our horizon.
Yeah. So Uncle Nair's reportedly had given the formula and helped Jack Daniels with the whiskey that we drink today, and we all know Jack Daniels. So all these years there were just no credit given to Uncle Nair's. And finally, Uncle Nair's received the credit, his family, in acknowledgement that he did in fact help Jack Daniels with the formula for the whiskey. And so they are literally, someone took the idea and they created a cohort of some other investors. They got behind the story and they pushed it after they got the rights from Jack Daniels to then uh, to push the beverage on a national platform. And I think it's in 48 states and it's multiple countries across the world. But it's a really unique story. And you get a second, just Google it. They actually did a short film on it. I think it's Sundance or one of those. They did a short film on it. So definitely look at it and do some research on it. You'll be amazed.
Wow, that's great. And I'm putting the spelling in there because I didn't know how to spell it either, LaShawn. So appreciate it. I put that in there. And
Yeah.
then he dropped in a comment, Black history. Teach them. That's right. We need to know about our Black history. So we
Yeah.
appreciate it. This is what we're talking about. And we have another comment. And for some reason, on some platforms, it doesn't have your name. So just drop
Yeah.
in your name and you put in your comment. Oh, Jack is my fave. I'm biased from Tennessee. Yes.
Tennessee. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
appreciate you sharing that tidbit of information with us. And so I know we talked about a little bit about strategy, and that's one of the things that I've always admired about you, Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
You have a really unique way of being able to break things down and
Mm-hmm.
not only just break it down to the smallest and simplest ways, but also what's the strategy. I remember so many days, Lashina, what is the strategy that you have? Like, so that is so important when we think about not only in our career, but within any business, because we have entrepreneurs in the audience that,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we get into this rut because we're just trying to build the business. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you step back and you've got to think about that strategy, because if not, I feel as if you're doing yourself a disservice. You're going to keep spinning your wheels. What do you think about that?
No, I mean you're absolutely right, and I tell people all the time. There's a difference versus being strategic versus being tactical. And I think sometimes people get them mixed up, right? So tactical is like, hey, I need to, accomplish this so I can get here. And I need to just, hire another manager to do this to get to here. Where strategy is, hey, I want to obtain 15% of the market share. And what is that going to take in R&D, and what is that going to take in other development areas of the business to then secure 15% of the business? And so I'm looking more long term when you talk about strategy. But tactical is, and again, a lot of people get it confused. Is like, I'm doing this to this to this. Those are steps, right? You can be tactical, but you can lack the strategy. And that's where I think a lot of entrepreneurs, kind of mess up. They know, hey, I need to get started. And then they say, hey, well, in order to get started, I got to do this and this and this. But they don't never take a step back and say, okay, ultimately, here's where I want to go. Now, are the things that I'm doing tactically lining up with my strategy? And that's the question that you have to ask yourself. Because if not, you're not going to end up where you're making moves, but your moves are not calculated, and that's where you're going to always potentially have an issue. Is that if your tactics are not adding up or feeding into your strategy, and so that's where when you hear strategy, it's like you've got to also understand like what levers to pull and why you're pulling them, and it goes back to just like I said. A lot of people don't understand, the things that they're doing or why they're doing it. They know that they're doing it, they just don't understand why. And so if you can communicate or articulate why you're doing what you're doing, you have a grasp of what you're doing, and then you have a grasp of your business. So I think those are the things that really kind of separate strategy when you hear the word versus, things that you're doing tactically. Because they'll be like, you can tell your senior leadership, yeah, I've added 5 more people to my team. That's great. That's going to increase our revenue, right? But then how does that help our strategy? Well, hey, you know what? I created a platinum plan, and that platinum plan is going to create stickiness with our customers. And what we can do is add an additional layer of support to it so that we can get a $10 or $15 increase per ticket, which then ultimately will help us hit our top line goal, which is the increased revenue by 15%. See, that's strategy versus tactical. So you just got to understand what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing.
Oh, wow. Thank you for breaking that down. And I think one other, for people who are not used to working strategically, any like tips that, that can help them think in that mode of being strategic?
So I think the thing is, you have to continue to ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and does this make sense to where you're trying to accomplish. Like, you have to continue to pause and check your pulse, right? Like, it's like that you're doing something new. You're trying a new diet, which is business, right? You're being an entrepreneur, but you never check your vitals. Like, how can you not check your vitals when you're doing something new and you're introducing something new or foreign to your body, but you don't never check on, like, how am I feeling? Is this doing the right thing? Am I losing weight? Am I gaining strength? Am I shredding fat? Am I doing? If you don't understand and check your pulse and your temperature, then how are you going to measure that you're effectively moving along the line, right? So those are the things that you need to do. So always check in with yourself. I mean, and that just goes from life in general. You need to always check in with yourself to make sure that you're making the right decisions as you move along in life. Because sometimes you look up and you ask yourself, how did I get here? Well, I mean, it's because you weren't conscious of not being there. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, how did I get here? Well, you weren't conscious of being in the moment. So you've got to always do those things and have those conversations with yourself. And don't be afraid to pivot. Sometimes we get locked onto something and we just don't want to let go because of how people are going to think about us and what they're going to do or what they're going to say. Or they're going to be like, you doing something else again? Or what? It's like you cannot let that feed into what you're doing, because you're always going to constantly make those changes and do things where you make course corrections at any given point, right? It's just like, I'm sure we'll touch on, like, when you go into college, you think you're going to major in this and do this, and then all of a sudden you're doing something else. It's the same thing. Don't be afraid, right? You're exploring, and no matter how old you get, you're exploring who you are. You're really still, you're every day you're uncovering who you are. Like, you're learning a different thing about yourself every day, right?
Absolutely. And I love LaShawn's question, and I don't know the timing of when she popped that in there because she says that she struggles with being strategic. Is there a strategic tips for dummies? I like the check-in tip. And I
Yeah.
think that's a great point. I mean, if you think about driving a regular route, maybe it's driving into work, when we were all in the offices, that is. You know
Mhm.
how a lot of times, to your point, Adrian, you would get to work and you would not have any conscious thought of how you got to work. You just know
Mhm.
you got to whatever your location was because you're so used to driving it that you're
Mhm.
not intentionally thinking about, okay, I'm on this street now, I need to turn here, because you already know what to do. So to
Right.
your I think to your tip that you gave is not only thinking about your why, but being intentional in the moment that I'm doing this, why? And I'm reflecting on how I got here. And what went well. What could we do different? What did we do well that we need to continue on? I think that's where you're talking about with the strategic piece of it, is being intentional.
Absolutely. And again, it's the constant. Even if you break it down to where you're saying, every 30 days, do what you have to do in order for it to make sense. Even if it's a 30-day window or a 60-day window, you have to just constantly check in with yourself and have a time frame, right? I think the other thing to the other question is check in with yourself, but then have those time frames after 30 days, every 30 days on your calendar when starting to pay your bills. Okay, where's your check-in? Where's your check-in on where you want to be? Where's your check-in on where you're trying to go? You have to do that. You have to take that serious, just like you take everything else serious. Just like you take your health serious, just like you pay your bills. You have to get matter of fact about what you're doing, or you're always gonna be lukewarm, right? You're gonna feel like, golly. One thing my uncle said, he's a pastor, and he said it, and I just kind of was listening to him. He said, every Christmas or every time at the end of the year, he's like, look back. And if you're in the same position as you were last year, you missed something. And I always think about that. And you have to reflect. And so that's the word that I'm using. You got to reflect to determine if you're constantly going in the right direction. Because it's like, if not, you're going to keep waking up and saying, man, how did I get here? How did I get here? And the other thing is, you have to be prone to distractions, right? Distractions come in all different ways, shapes, forms, and what have you. And you have to know that, hey, I'm trying to get to a goal and I have to continue to focus on it. And sometimes your distractions are going to be valid, right? Some with a health issue or somebody in your family has this to happen. Your distraction will be valid, but it's like a typewriter, right? When you're typing on a typewriter, the old school, right? It starts to go to the right, you have to always push it back to the left to continue to type. You can't just keep typing. The typewriter is just going to stay on that right side. You have to push it back. You have to reset and continue to type. That means checking in with yourself and making sure that you stay on task, because you can't just go one way all the time. And I think that's what people do, is they continue to not look at the things that they need to do to build themselves and get back on track. Because it's easy to get distracted. It's not about you getting distracted. It's about how you can get back on track and get focused on where you need to be.
Wow. You didn't take us all the way back to the typewriter, did you?
I,
You took
I
us
had
there.
to.
Wow. That's what I'm
I had
talking about.
to. I had to. The analogies.
Yes, I love those old typewriters, but yes, I don't miss them because, man, they were a lot of work. But you're right. You had to work that typewriter. You had to keep
Mm-hmm.
moving it. And that's so many nuggets there and what you were talking about. Adrian, I know that we've talked a little bit about your bio and about what you're doing now, and I want to unpack that a little bit more because
Mm-hmm.
you're doing some amazing things right now with real estate and with investment. And I think that a lot of us, we need to learn different ways of having multiple streams of income. I'm totally so big on multiple streams of income. If you learn nothing else from Career Happy Hour, it is to not put all of your eggs in one basket, but to have multiple streams of income. So we're going to get there. But tell us a little bit about your career story. We
Mm-hmm.
love to be able to understand from our guest co-hosts, what you're doing now. Is that
Mm-hmm.
what you always thought you would be doing? Is that what you said that you wanted to be when you grew up?
No, It was what was fed. Lawyer, doctor. I thought I was going to be a lawyer more so than a doctor. I really thought I was going to be a lawyer, right? I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to go to law school. I liked it, but I started out as funny. My mom is an entrepreneur, right? And she's done a little bit of everything. She's kind of really scrappy with it, right? There's a difference between being a sole proprietor or self-employed versus being an entrepreneur, right? And what you do and how you work determines what category you fall into. I think when you're starting out, we're all self-employed and we're all self-employed, and we look at it from that perspective. We're linear. We're exchanging time for money, meaning I got to work 60 hours to get this, right? And the goal is to figure out how do I do that where the residual, and I think it's a buzzword now and everybody uses it, residual, 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 everything's residual, residual, right? But before I go down that path, I'll just start out so I went to college. I thought I was going to do computer, right? So I went from a lawyer when I was young. Then I was like, I think I'm going to do something in computers because everything was computers back when I was going to school. And then I was like, nah, I ended up in business. So, I dabbled in some business with my college roommate. We did a vending business. We were trying things at that particular point. We did a vending business. We actually purchased a gas station in South Carolina. We ended up selling that. And then, after that, I was like, okay, what do we do next? So I was like, I know I like sales and I know I like finance. So like, how do I kind of marry the two? So I was looking through the ads, literally like I was looking through the newspaper. So, not dating, but I was looking through the newspaper and they had a position about the mortgage industry and being a loan officer. So I was like, all right, cool. So I, interviewed, this is when mortgages was kind of hot, like 2002, 2003. So I was like, all right, let me look at, the mortgages. So I went to a couple different shops and I went into this one shop and they were like, hey, no one in here makes less than six figures and no one will, right? And I kind of like, that kind of competitive side. I played sports collegiately. I played soccer growing up and then I got a full scholarship actually to Howard University. So I continued on with that. So I was competitive. And when I went in there into this mortgage company, they were just like, no one in here makes less than six figures. No one will. A lot of people that intimidate, but I was like, hey, I'm a fighter. I'm going to try. So I got in there and I did well. I was consistently ranked like top three. We took the branch from number 11 nationally to number one. And then, we kind of went from there. So then, boom, just like everybody in the mortgage industry, the story, the whole sky fell out. And when I tell you the sky fell out, it fell out. I went from, going to, I think we went to Paris on Valentine's Day and all these luxury cars and all of this stuff to nothing quick. And I had to learn a lesson that material things are very fleeting, right? And so it went from being married with all of this stuff to not being married at all and not having none of the cars, having to walk away, literally losing everything, right? So, like when you talk about falling down on your face, it went from again being married to in a dark house in South Carolina after I moved back home and my wife's gone and she's gone with my 1 year old son. And I'm like, there's like literally no lights. And I'm like, wow, you literally blink your eye and you can lose everything. And it's like, you kind of saw it coming, with these mortgage companies like imploding and things are happening. And but I was young, you know what I mean? We're 23, 24, and the guys that kind of trained us, they were like stockbrokers. So we were just used to being on the phone, pitching and talking to people. And this is in the Northern Virginia area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. So, we were young and just, kind of aggressive and making all this money and going to these Italian restaurants, not thinking like this may not last forever. Right. And I think that is one of the things that sometimes when life happens to you, you learn the hard way. It's like make investments and do things different. But I was young. I wasn't exposed to that type of money. My parents combined didn't make that type of money. So it wasn't like you couldn't tell me anything, but it was just like I was just like, man, this is crazy. Like this is a lot of money. But I think in that you have to really think about okay, I see that. You have to really think about the things that you're accomplishing and the things that you're encountering and understand that nothing lasts forever. And so that's where the whole part of when you talk about learning to build residual and cover your backside, so to speak, that's where it came from. It's understanding that at any given point, something can be taken away from you. It's just like if you were laid off or let go or fired from your job, excuse me, how many times are you going to be put in that position where you say, okay, I have to hedge against this. I have to do things that I'm uncomfortable with to ensure that if something does happen, that I can then financially support myself and I can move accordingly. And it comes in small choices. You know, you can buy one rental property a year. That could be your goal. And you can say, hey, my budget is $100,000. I want to put $10,000 down. I'm going to use $5,000 or $6,000 in closing costs, and I'm just going to rent this property out. It doesn't matter what you do, just do something. You don't have to look at what other people are doing. You don't have to get caught up into that. It's just making a conscious decision to do something with yourself and for yourself, one step at a time. And so you want to be in a position where you don't feel like you have to constantly start over. And the goal is way more achievable than most people think, because you're like, oh, well, I don't have money to do this. I don't have money to do that. It's not about the money, it's about the know-how. And that's one thing that I've learned in business. I mean, we've taken over properties where it was subject to where the owner's like, I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to put no more money into this house. Just get me out. I'm done. So it will be something where they had little or no equity, and technically they couldn't sell it. They already tried to sell it. Well, we came in and we said, well, we'll take over the house subject to. We'll take over the mortgage payments. We'll pay the mortgage payments. We'll make sure that we keep them, clean. We'll send you a receipt every month of us making a mortgage payment. And what we do is then rent that property out. So if they have a mortgage, typically they might have a mortgage that's like $500, but the property might be renting now for $750 or $800. So then we can then take that difference and rent it out. And then now we got cash flow coming in, but we never went to the bank. We never went to the bank because we worked it out with the seller. Now, there's some legal stuff that you have to do in between there to just make sure you cover yourself. But now you've taken over the mortgage, you're making payments, and then now you're getting rental income off of that. So I can take that same situation one step further and say, okay, I'm getting rental income. I'm going to do a lease purchase with this person. Hey, Mrs. Jones, you're renting, you're doing well. Do you want to purchase this property on a lease purchase? I'll give you 2 years to purchase the property, $5,000 down. And within 2 years, you need to purchase this property at X amount. Well, I might have it under contract for $100,000 with Ms. Jones, but the current, or not Ms. Jones, but the first owner, but Ms. Jones says, I said to her, I want to sell it. I'll sell it to you for 120, because I'm looking at, hey, in 2 years, this house is going to be worth more. I don't want to leave money on the table. So I have it at $100,000 over here with the seller. And I tell Ms. Jones, I'll sell it to you 2 years from now. You have up to 2 years at 120. So let's say she performs. I got the cash flow from the monthly rent, and then I also got the $20,000 difference between what I had it at the seller with and also what I sold it to her at. And the seller's happy because they've got their credit restored. So let's say they were behind on the mortgage payments. Their credit's restored. It's showing that they've been paying on time, and now they can really move on with their life. She buys the house. Ms. Jones buys the house. I walk with the 20,000. The seller gets their mortgage paid off now, and it's been on time for the last 24 months. And we all walk away. And so there's different ways of doing things. It's not always about having money. It's about having know-how. So I hope I didn't go off on a tangent. I just wanted to just break down like where I came from and or where I started from, and then kind of how I got to this road. I think the tail end part of that story is after the mortgage industry and I started over, I came to Atlanta. I had a choice. I said Atlanta or South Carolina. I ended up coming to Atlanta. I got a job doing mortgages still, even though the term is like a burnt child scared of fire. I still went into the mortgage industry because really, like, I had nothing to lose. Literally, like everything is gone. So it's like, okay, even if I make $2,000 or $3,000 a month, I'm still gonna be fine. I remember coming to Atlanta, and my parents can tell a story. I had like a 1989 beat up Nissan truck that I had in college that my mom just ended up keeping, that I ended up driving literally as an adult. And then I couldn't even get if money was so tight, I couldn't even get my stuff out of storage. So I was sleeping on a blow up mattress in Atlanta for like 4 months, 4 or 5 months, until I did enough loans in the mortgage industry to get money. And then I was like, all right, I know I got to pivot from the mortgage industry. And that's when I got a job in the credit card processing industry, because I knew it was just larger, it was bigger. And then, from there, I went on and did some things. I got into merchant finance with American Express and launched the merchant financing for American Express. We went from 10 people to 66 people and grew that business, and then into the Sage world and managed that in the renewal department, and then ultimately ended up on my own. Once the decision was made to part ways with Sage, I looked at myself and my wife and I was like, you know what? At this particular point, I can continue to find employment, or I can say I got a 6 month run. And if I can't get it done in 6 months, then as a person, as a provider for your family, sometimes you got to make those tough the decisions and choices. And so if I had to, I would. But I just was so determined that I didn't want to be in that situation again, that when you don't have a safety net, sometimes you go a lot harder. And so I just put things together and kind of move from there. But in the midst of that, and to be fair, I think in 2014, I kind of dabbled with my first deal in real estate. A lady came to me and she was like, I'm trying to rehab. I need a loan. I took out a mortgage on it. She never did the rehab. She took the $12,000 and went somewhere else. So we got into a discussion of, I think I'm frozen here. Are you guys with me?
Yeah, you're still moving on
Okay.
my end. Yeah.
All right, so that's frozen on mine. So we got into discussion. I took over that property. I ultimately ended up selling it, and then I got into a flip on downtown Charleston and Ray Street, and I sold that. And then a new build. I was just doing like onesie twosies, but it really didn't take off till 2018, when a departure from Sage happened. I was like, I got to make a choice, and here's where we are, and I got to move forward. I gotta go. Here's the point where you got to go for your dreams, and you got to leave it all on the table.
Yeah. And so there's so much that I can talk to with that. But before we go into unpacking some of that, I just want to acknowledge that we're having some technical difficulties with the feed to the private Facebook group. So
Mm-hmm.
sorry about that, guys. I can't reconnect it since we're going live unless I end the broadcast, and I don't want to do that. So everyone can still join us live on the YouTube channel at It's Recruit Alina. So I dropped that in the message there. So just join us on YouTube, and you'll still be able to view us live. But I think one of the things, Adrian, that you talked through that's so key for so many of us, what we were talking about was just don't stop moving. Keep
Mm-hmm.
moving. Sometimes, yes, we get tired. Sometimes, yes, we're like, okay, are we doing it right? Are we going in the right direction? And it's about being able to continue moving. Like that is the goal of every journey that you're on. You have to continue to move. And thanks, LaShawn. You still here, so I appreciate you, girl. Technology is great when it works, and it is not great when it doesn't work. So we are dealing with that, and I think we have lost Adrian, but we're gonna hang out and let him come back here in just a little bit. And so hopefully you're able to jump on YouTube, for all of those that were in the Facebook group. So we're going to see if we can get Adrian back in here. Let's see where and I want you guys to think about some of the things that you've heard Adrian talk about with the real estate, because I think that's one of those things that a lot of us are we're so intimidated by. That's a good word. That's the word I was looking for. Intimidated by with real estate, but it is also a very lucrative area of having your multiple streams of income. So I want you guys to think about, what are some of the questions that you've ever had about investing in real estate, that you ever had questions about flipping flipping houses, or flipping properties. What is that about? Because I think that you have a expert guru here that is for you to be able to pick his brain to see, what are some of the things that you should be thinking about, what are some of the things that you should not be thinking about. Kenidra said, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, because I hate mispronouncing names. He is an amazing guy to work with, very genuine. Yes, you are, Adrian. You are so amazing.
Hey,
Um,
hold on. I think I'm coming
hey,
in.
hey,
One
you
second.
coming? Okay. Let him get his technology straight, because technology is trying not to let us be great today, and we can't have all of that. So think about some of the questions that you have as it relates to real estate, and then drop those in the comments, because we want to be able to not only give you some fantastic guest co-hosts and to share their career story, but we also want to be able to give you knowledge, give you insight on topics that maybe you've never heard of before, or that you've heard of but you just didn't know where to go to get some answers. And so that's what Adrian is here for. So Adrian, you are all set.
Awesome. I'm trying to like make a little change here. Now I'm on the Mac screen, so I dumped the laptop, so I think I'm good now.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I tell you, technology something around here.
Always.
We got our first question though. Shamel, our buddy Shamel. Thanks for joining in, girlfriend. So
Yes.
she said,
Yeah.
how much money do you need to start investing? So
Um,
what are your thoughts there?
here's what I would say. And it really depends upon on what type of investment vehicle you want to explore. And I'm gonna answer that. So if you're talking about fix and flip, right, you need to literally have your budget times at least 20%. I know some people say 10%, but you need to have 20%, and then you also need to have your closing costs, which I think a lot of people, forget about in that scenario. If you want to attack more of a creative financing, like the subject two I was talking about, you can literally get that done with $10,000, right? It's just about going to the right person and then having them train you or teach you on how to approach that situation or how to get that deal done. So you also have the other side of like, hey, if you want to make calls and try to connect with potential homeowners who are selling their property off market, you can do what we call wholesaling, which is, you basically buy a list, you skip trace that owner, you look for someone with high equity, or some type of other parameter, and you call them yourself. Hey, Mrs. Jones, do you look at, did you ever think about selling your property? Yes. Okay, great. I'm looking at $100,000. They didn't take that contract, and they call me. Adrian, I have a deal. It's probably worth $180,000. I'll let you get it for $110,000. So they walk away with the $10,000. I'll walk away with the property for $110,000. And let's use Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones gets her $100,000. And so now you literally just made $10,000 off of that scenario. So it just really depends. But if you're fixing and flipping, you need to have at least 20% of what you think your budget's going to be. And then also you want to, if you can, partner up with someone so they can lead you along that line. So I would say for me, like if you said, look, like what's a number? I'm like, you need to have at least 30 to 50,000 if you're going to do a fix and flip. If you're going to do something else where it's creative financing, $10,000 to $15,000. It's all about the know-how. You know what I mean? The more you know, the less money you need. And that's what you got to look at. You know what I mean? And that just comes from education. And sometimes we're scared to spend money on our education. It's important to do that, right? So like I'm continually learning, I'm continually figuring out new ways, because a lot of the things that I'm learning have been done for ages. It's just that we didn't know about it, right? So if you go looking on creative financing and ways to take over a deal, then it makes sense. And that's the other thing. Is the conversation is about control and not always ownership, right? I can control a 14-unit apartment complex, but I might not be the sole owner. I might have 20 other partners with it, but I control it. I'm the managing member of that particular group, and I can control what happens. I get a percentage monthly, plus I get equity on the back end. But on the back end, let's say I sell that let's say we repositioned that multifamily, that 14 unit, and we got it for 3 million, and we ended up selling it for 7 million, right? And my stake out of that 7 million is 600,000. That's still a lot of money, right? But I still have other partners in that particular situation. So it really just depends. It's a lot of variables to it. But if you're talking about fix and flip, I would definitely look at it from at least 30 to 50,000. All right.
It's a hot mess.
I
So
see.
we have another question from Kanidra. That was really great insight, Adrian, because you saw Twisted and Co. She commented interesting. So really great nuggets on how to break that down. So Kanidra is asking, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How do I determine the value of an investment property?
So when you say value, are you talking about like your ARV? Like, so I see the question again. So you're talking about the value of something. You always want to look at comparables. That's your number one thing. Like, what are things selling for that's comparable or comparable to that? When I say comparable, I mean you can't use a 5-bedroom, 4,000 square feet house and compare it to a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom house. You need to look at what is the I know that's right. Absolutely. Right. You have to look at the comparables in that area, and you can always pull that from public records. You can even go to Zillow. Don't use Zillow for the Zestimate. Don't do that. But you can always use the sold history from Zillow. That's accurate because it's coming from public records. So you look at, and you can use search and filter criteria. Hey, I want to look at houses that are 2 to 3,000 square feet. They have 3 to 2 bedrooms. They were built in 1970. You need to look at that vicinity, flex 5 or 10 years from that date. So if the house that you're looking at was built in 1970, it's okay to go up to like 1980, right? But don't go too further. You can't compare a 1980 home to a 2015 home, right? So those are the things that you got to look at when you're looking at comparables. And so that's how you determine the value of an investment. And then the other side of it is, from an investment perspective, is, and when you get in more into multifamily, we don't look at, and this is just a little side note, when you're talking about multifamily, you don't look at, the banks don't look at, oh, it's right on the block of, Piedmont, and so houses in that area are selling for 600,000. It's worth that. That's not how you do it with multifamily. Multifamily goes off of cash flow because it's a commercial loan. So they look at, okay, hey, this building is bringing in $100,000 a year. They look at the NOI, which is the net operating income, and they determine a value based off of that, not where the building is located. So you got to know the difference between single family and commercial.
Okay, good. We have another question from Twisty Co, aka my sister Sabrina. Would you also compare price per square feet?
Oh, that's tricky. That's tricky too, because here's the thing. You might have a house in Brookhaven, and that house was 1,000 square feet, and that house sold for $350,000. You take that same multiplier, let's say $300 per square foot, and you try to put it onto a 2,400 square foot house, saying, okay, I'm gonna take $300 times 2,400 square feet, and that's my value. It doesn't work like that. There's a small flex area in there where it's only gonna go so much higher. Just like when you compare a basement to the above ground, the basement's always gonna be less, right? It's not just because you got 1,000 square feet don't mean, and you got 1,000 above and 1,000 below, it's 2,000 square foot house. They're going to weight it, and the appraiser's going to weight that differently when you have below grade square footage. So just like that scenario, you got to look at it when you're talking about, if a house is small but it's in a great area, you can't literally say, I'm going to get $300 a square foot because this 1,000 square foot home sold for $300,000. So I know this 2,400 square foot home is going to sell for $600. It doesn't work like that. There's an ebb and flow, but that's a great question.
Awesome. Okay, really great. Well, you have so much knowledge, Adrian. And I know that, hopefully people will tune into the replay. Make sure that you hashtag replay, and you go back and listen to, because Adrian, you talk so fast, man. I mean, I was trying to keep up. I was like, I'm trying to take notes over here, and my hands hurt. So please go back and listen to the replay. But one of the other things that you have offered, especially for our community of Career Happy Hour, is something that you don't do that often, which is a one-on-one with you for 30 minutes to just pick your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And we so appreciate you offering that up. So if you're interested in getting that one-on-one with Adrian, please drop in the hashtag. What hashtag do you think we should put in there?
I don't know. I don't know. Legacy. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I like that. Legacy what?
Legacy or wealth, or your future.
Oh,
Generational wealth. Yeah, recruiter Lena.
generation.
10.
We
10.
got it. Yes, we're gonna put hashtag generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in a one on qualifying, because he'll pick one of those individuals that put the hashtag generational wealth, because that is what investing and real estate is about having those multiple streams of income, but also being able to give generational wealth to the generations that come behind us. And a lot of us, I know, including me, I didn't have that. I
Right.
mean, they're just I I started from ground zero, and
Yeah.
whatever I've gotten up until this point is based on the work ethic, of course, that I got from my family. But they didn't know how to mentor me into doing anything with business. And so, it's really important for us to make sure that we're continuing to pour into each other. So tell them a little bit about that one-on-one session, because I know you say your time is so maxed out that that's not something that you're able to do very often. So really appreciate you giving that to this community.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's definitely important. I think you have to look at it as, even though, let's say in your situation or my situation, someone didn't hand us the keys to 24 properties or whatever. They did enough as a community to get us to a certain level. And now it's like, okay, you got to take it from that level and go from there. So it's all about exposure, taking your kids around. My kids are always with me. I'm always explaining to them what things mean. They know my number one rule: never sell anything that we acquire. You either figure out how to mix use or repurpose the thing that you have. So if it's a piece of land, you build a house on. If it's, you tear the house down, you put something else and you put a shopping mall on it. You take the shopping mall off on it, you put an apartment complex on it. You need to figure out the mixed use of property, because so many times, we sell things that we inherit or we come across, and it's like, no, don't do that. You know what I mean? The first thing we do when we get in a financial crunch is sell that house you have. You need to get rid of that property. You have a significant other, a wife, or whoever that's in your ear about just get rid of it. And it's like, you should make that the absolute last thing you do. Like, how can I avoid this at all costs? Because just like when whatever you do, if you sell that piece of property or whatever you do, as soon as you do that, guess what? You never got to the root cause of the issue, right? You can say, oh, it's just a one-off emergency and I needed to tap into some money and I had to sell it. Well, you need to back up, right? So how was you in that situation in the first place, right? There's some steps missing. Were you properly saving? Did you look at the 6 month? You know what I mean? You have to ask yourself these questions and take responsibility. I think so many times accountability, there's nothing wrong with saying, I didn't get that one right. It's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, you shouldn't be in a situation where as soon as you get something, you have to sell it, because as soon as you sell it, that money's gone and now the house is gone. And now you're like, there's no way to really qualify for it again, because you're in a situation of a financial hardship in the first place. So it's like, it just all runs together. You have to press pause and say, okay, I need to hang on to this by any means, and we need to figure out what we need to do, because that's the one thing that you can give to your kids, even if it's a 10 by 10 plot. And so the person that has that discussion with me, we'll talk about like just what are some of your goals and how you can use real estate as an investment. Real estate is just one investment vehicle. There's plenty of them, but how do you use this to then create a situation where you have you start to create some net worth, right? And so we'll have that discussion on that and break down any questions you have, whether it's like, hey, I want to transition to it. How do I do it? What can I do in the interim? What are some of the things that I can do quickly in real estate? Versus, okay, you answer that question. Now, what do I do long term? What do I need to do? And so, you have to set yourself up in that scenario. And I talk about it all the time. There's a piece of property that I bought in Johns Island, South Carolina. It's on the water. It's an acre. And I bought it back in 2014. Like I really wasn't buying real estate at that particular point. I was kind of almost fully kind of rebounding, but I was like, oh, I knew I needed to buy something. I was like, I got to buy a piece of property. I'm in a position where I can qualify. I only got to put $5,000 down. I found it. It was $26,000. Now the property's probably worth $250,000 to $300,000 just for the lot. The person next door is building a house for like $600,000. But think about it. I got the house for $26,000, right? I don't owe anything on it right now. But it's like I just made a move. That's not a lot of money to put down. I think my total closing cost was $4,000. Go look on the outside. Don't always look in the city. Oh, I got to be in the city and I got to buy a piece of property in the city and I got to do this and do that. Go back to where you were from. Go back to where your parents live. Go anywhere. Find property that is valuable and anticipate. Say, hey, they're building up. There's only a matter of time before it continues to stretch out, right? So if it's in Atlanta now, look in McDonough, look in these other places because it's only a matter of time before they reach out that far. And so you got to think outside the box and don't think about, man, I can't afford nothing in the city of Atlanta. Don't try, right? Go and look at other places. And so we'll talk about those things in this 30-minute consultation.
Oh, wow. You really breaking it down for us. Oh, my gosh. That is so amazing. Thanks for those that have put the hashtag in the chat. And then I also want to give you Adrian's websites, because for those that may not get the one-on-one session, there's still other ways that you can get more information about what Adrian does and the companies that he has. So I put those websites on there. So give us a little bit of insight about these two websites.
Awesome. So offer is where we essentially go and find off-market properties. That's the mechanism where we market. You see all those things from we buy ugly houses to we buy houses cash to those annoying text messages to all of those things that just get under your skin. That's partly us, right? Because we're looking for a particular person that says, hey, yeah, you know what, I want to sell. Typically we go after non-owner occupied, but sometimes it gets crossed and we go to, owner occupied. But we're looking for, landlords who are tired of rent. That's really our niche, right? And it's like, hey, it's performed for us. We made a lot of money. And that's one thing you'll see about real estate. It just transitions, right? So we had a guy who had a portfolio of 13 homes and he's like, okay, I've done it. I made all the money off of them. I don't want to leave it to my kids because they somewhere I went wrong and I don't think they're going to do right. I'm like, hey, okay. So, that's the mechanism for offer. We go look at off-market properties and we secure them. Once we do that, it comes over to we make a decision whether we're going to assign our contract to someone else with another buyer. So let's say it's not in an area that we want to flip a property in. I might say, hey, Lashina, look, I got this property. I know you do a lot of deals in East Point. That's not my thing. That's not my wheelhouse. I'll sell this one for you to you for $110. I got it for $100. You give me the $10,000 finder's fee at the table. I'll walk. You get the property, and you go on and make $70,000 or $80,000, right? So that's what that offer side does. And then it gets the real estate capital exchange if it's something that we want to flip. So if we want to flip it, we found it an offer. Offer then assigns that contract to real estate capital exchange, and then real estate capital exchange picks up on it, flips that property for a profit, right? That means we go in and we renovate it and we change the floors and all the things that need to be done to the property, and then we list it. In addition to that, real estate capital exchange is where we market and we increase raising finances for our flips. So we have private investors now. I think, we have a pool of about let's just say $4 million in assets and real estate assets that we're turning over on a 90-day interval, right? And so we've raised that capital through other investors, no institutions yet, but we're looking at that, but through other investors who say, yeah, I want to get involved. I just want to do it passive though. I've got $50,000. I don't have I make good money on my job. I just want to make money on my money, right? And so we have investors who then say, you guys go run with the torch. This is the return I'm looking for. We go acquire a property, flip it, they get their money, and we move forward. So those are the two companies. One finds them, one flips them and raises the money.
That sounds like a full circle around here. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just get them from either side. It doesn't matter.
That's it.
Well, Adrian, I know that we've had our technical difficulties this hour. Has not tried to make us look great, but we are at the end of our hour. It flies by. And there's just so much insight, so much information, so much inspiration that you have shared with our community here at Career Happy Hour. Absolutely. And we're just forever grateful. You are amazing, the amazing superstar that I've always seen in you. And I'm just so happy and proud of you. Just, it sounds like, sometimes God, the universe, has to kick us in the butt to say, hey, you need to be doing what I tell you to do, not what you trying to do.
That's right. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And I know, it's for you, it's the same, right? And this is only, a stepping stone for you to ultimately get to where you're going. I mean, you've been that way. You've been the inspiration. You've been the person that people can talk to. You've been the one to just, be very genuine and matter of fact. And that's one thing that is very, very rare, unfortunately, in these days, is people that just tell you how it is and then try to help you go somewhere, right? And I've always committed, you will give your opinion on it and then be like, this is what you can do. And it's all about the solution-oriented business. You know what I mean? We're all facing obstacles in every various ways in our life. It's not about the obstacle. It's about how you approach where you're trying to go from it. And that's what it is about. And I think, you're doing a wonderful job in exploiting that and showing people that you can just, no matter what happens, you can continue to move forward and innovate. You know what I mean? Don't stop because something happened. Just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Keep networking. Keep introducing yourself. Keep talking about yourself. Keep it, promoting yourself. You know what I mean? That's all about recruiting, is promoting yourself. Because if you dim your light, then no one really knows what's going on with you. No one knows that you're looking for something. And then that comes across in the interview process. It comes across in the things that you're doing in life. And, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. You don't feel like doing it. There's times where you really don't feel like doing it. And it's okay. It's okay. Like, I don't know who told us that it's you can't do that. You gotta be. No, sometimes I'm not okay, but I'm going to be okay. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to be okay. And that's the thing that I think people have to understand. It's okay. Just continue to move forward. Just keep moving forward. And that's it. That's just about life and all the things in between.
Yes, and Kenidra, she says something really cool here in this comment that I actually posted as a topic for one of our previous episodes. When life gives you lemons, we say make a lemon drop. But you can have a bad day, not a bad life. And I am a testimony to that, because anyone who I have talked to today knows that I've not been feeling well today, not at all. And I even got questioned like, hey, Lashina, are you still doing the show tonight? Absolutely, because I committed to doing this show every week for you all. And that's what I'm doing. And I am faking it until I make it. And that's what I'm doing. And there's positivity in faking it till you make it. Not that you're being disingenuous. It's about you just showing up, and that you have that grit and that perseverance, and you just make it work. And now I'm about to go and jump in the bed after this, so that's okay.
Yeah.
But I took my Tylenol, and I wanted to make sure that I showed up for this community, and I am so grateful because you have just I think you have blown some minds tonight, Adrian. I really do believe that
Um,
you have poured into some people to give them some things to think about that they've never thought about before. And they will forever, ever remember this episode of Career Happy Hour.
that's
So
what.
thank you.
Yes.
Really appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you.
And so we are going to end our episode of Career Happy Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, the technical issues, you're going to have those, but you can always catch the replay and make sure that you get all of the insight and the nuggets that Adrian has shared with us tonight. And I am totally looking forward to our next episode next week, same time, same day. I am Lashina Recruitalina, your six-figure career brand coach. I am absolutely obsessed with your success. So please make it a recruitable, visible, and profitable day while you own and rock your umph. All right, we'll see you next week and for with another amazing guest co-host. See you then.